Hello, 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 hello. I think we're online. Good morning to you. Actually, I shouldn't say good morning because it's not morning where I am. And normally I'm talking to Ash at this time. That's why it's morning, because he's in London town. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I've got a feedback in my ear, which is very disconcerting. Okay, let's go without speakers. And hopefully, as I say, you can hear me, and we are underway with today's show. As I say, Ash is in the air and jetting towards Singapore as we speak in preparation for some IFP stuff there. And of course, thereafter, next week, on his way to Bali, where the whole damn lot of us are going to be. A truckload of traders in Bali. Should be a lot of fun, as always, and a lot of learning to be done there, as well as a lot of trading, a lot of fellowship. Let's call it fellowship, and enjoyment to be had. So, if you're going to Bali, look forward to seeing you there. Righto, what's speaking of seeing, what am I seeing this morning in the markets as we just about ready to open London? You can see already there's a little bit of fractious activity here as we've had a little breakout of this pennant formation on euro dollar. That was a typical move in about half an hour ago that we saw on the euro and the pound. And of course, we saw a bit of pound euro action as well on that particular cross. Let's see if that can be followed through, and what caused it. Well, I'm not sure we're going to find that out in this particular session, but who knows? All things are possible. All right, the opening bell is 2 seconds away. Here we go. Let's see what happens. We've got an open, so I don't trade the open of London as such, not the candle anyway. But what I like to do is wait for the first candle to close. It's the first 30-minute candle I'm talking about, and then get a nice handle on what might happen throughout the day. Of course, I've got an opinion, and that opinion is derived from a number of sources, not least of which is what happened yesterday and what is due to happen today in terms of news and fundamental announcements. Now, I rely a heck of a lot on Ash to tell me what's happening in London and what's likely to transpire there through Parliament, particularly these days, of course, where we're on the cusp, if you like, of getting a Brexit deal done. Or are we? Well, who knows the answer to that question? But on Saturday, it's supposed to all unfold before our very eyes. Trading that, of course, is a little bit interesting. We will, throughout the week, go into that particular scenario. But at this very moment, what I'm looking for is, hang on 2 secs, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, what I'm looking for is the market to actually cool down a little bit after the big move, of course, on last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the pound in particular. And I'm really looking forward to being able to jump into that at some stage before the Saturday announcement. But you'd have to be very, very careful that you've got a safe margin into your calculations if you're going to do that. But let's start with the Forex Factory this morning and see exactly what is likely to happen in terms of news announcements. Now, I think I've got to do a new share if I'm going to do that. which is that one. And we go there. All right, so this is what's happening in the world today. We've already had the monetary policy meeting minutes come out of Australia. Look, I never read those. They're just days and days long. It takes you an hour to read the dash things. Rather, what I tend to do is take a look and see what the market, or how the market, if the market has reacted to those meetings, those minutes, and that really tells me what I need to know. So I'm not trading at that time of day, so nothing there that that's going to shock me. Or, well, actually, that's not true. I had a longer term trade on the Aussie this morning. I'll go through that in a tick. That doesn't seem to have been affected too much, but we look to be headed in a downward direction at the last time I checked, which was just about 5 minutes ago. Already had CPI figures come out of China as well. That was a hit and a bit of a beat, actually. And the last bit of news that really is going to affect me for the day is Carney speaking. Not sure what he's speaking about or where he's at. He's testifying at the financial stability report before the Treasury Select Committee in London town. Okay, so that will be important if you're trading around about that time, particularly on the pound. We might see a little bit of volatility in that currency. Now, why would we see volatility in the pound? One would suggest, we've seen a fair bit of that of recent times without question, and it is still a tricky conveyance. There's no question there either. So that's probably it as far as news is concerned. A little bit of orange level news coming out a little bit later as well. I'll probably be well past trading at that point. So not a whole lot really to detract me from my focus, which will be, my screen sharing is paused. That's interesting. Why? I don't know. Resume share. Okay. I'm getting lots of little things here I don't normally see, guys, because I don't normally have the control box. Ash has normally got that. All right, let's see if I can go back to my trading screen. That should be that one. Okay, happy days. So I'm going to start with the euro, as I said before. And what I'm looking to do with the euro is find a directional bias first up. And really, that is a tough assignment. Yet there are a couple of indicators I want to have a look at. And the first of them is this one, the bigger time frame, which is the weekly chart. And my bias is really derived from the break of this support area here, which of course is the bottom of a descending channel, which really the currency pair has been in for 2 years, basically, if you consider that we started over here. And finally, we break through that decisively with this bar here 6 or 7 weeks ago. And it was at that point I suggested that 107.79 was where I could see the euro in the near term, well, medium term, let's say. At this point in time, that has failed to take place. And significantly or otherwise, we broke through this trend line at the end of last week. Which is the more significant is the question to me. Is it the retest of the bottom of the channel, or is it the break of the trend line? So let me take a closer look at that on the daily chart. Trend line's a little bit different on the weekly as it is on the daily, but you can see quite clearly that yesterday was a confirmation, if you like, of the break of that trend. The thing that concerns me, being in a bullish frame of mind, is the bottom of that channel that I spoke of, which once broken tends to be a strong resistance level, and that to this point is still the case. So I'm still reluctant to be bullish here, and I'm still looking for downside. What would change that? Well, obviously, if I'm concerned about this being resistance, then I would need to see that break. So the level I'm kind of talking about is a little bit hard to find in terms of a number, but it's probably in that vicinity. So 110.44-ish, and we're currently sitting at what, 110.32-ish, having tested that level again. So again, I'm interested in being a bear. I don't mind what I'm seeing here, actually, with the rejection of that level that I've just put on my chart, not once, but twice, and now potentially a third time. So I'm looking for perhaps a break and retest of this support area. That, of course, is on a 30-minute chart. And I think that would suit me. I think this is a great trade line. Trade versus trend. I call the lines that I trade from trade lines, obviously, and they're not necessarily depicting trend. They are, however, depicting an area that has had very, very strong scrutiny from the market. And this is certainly the case with this trend line, where we've had beautiful rhythm or frequency of test. And every time we've tested that level, we've bounced off it. But it's getting a little bit tight in here, isn't it? And you can see that breakout that we had only half an hour or so ago has reversed very, very quickly. So change of sentiment, it would appear, from Asia session into UK session, and it looks like the UK is looking to sell the euro off as we speak. That kind of plays into my bias. There's no question there. But what I really need to see is a break here now and a retest of the confluence area, I do believe, in an area that gives me some freedom underneath wherever that breakout occurs. Now, if this continues to go as it is, this is probably just going to continue to go in the next 20 minutes, and we're not going to see that. So I just have to wait for this candle to form, obviously, and then come back and have a look and say, well, okay, yeah, we've got something here, or we do not. There's nothing else to do. We've done our analysis saying short, and we just need now to wait for a setup on the euro. As I said, there is an argument for the long, given the break of that that trend line on a weekly chart and the close above it, but I'm considering pullback at the very least to that line again. So if I could pick that level, maybe that's going to help us a little bit later on in terms of if we can find an entry, and B, if we can find an exit. So I've got that level just below the 110 mark at 109.95, and that's bang on today's daily pivot. So that's going to be a little bit tricky, because guess what? No, that's all weird. What just happened there? Go back to the weekly chart. That's obviously not today's daily pivot. That's why it's weird. And that must be yesterday's daily pivot or something like that. Because when I go to today on the 4-hour chart, sorry, daily pivot, not weekly pivot, we are bang on the daily pivot. Aha, so it must be the monthly pivot, that level, that blue number. All right, now it's all starting to make sense. So let me go back there. I just want to get this accurate, guys. Now there's the monthly pivot down there. Interesting. I've got the daily pivot sitting here according to this, but we know we're at the daily pivot. So ignore that. There's obviously a little label that's gone astray there somewhere. So let's come back to that that 4-hourly chart and see exactly what we've got. And you can see we've got a total mess here. How on earth can you pick that? Where's it going to break to, and where's it going to go to? Well, if it does break, obviously the first level of defense here from the market's point of view is the weekly pivot. So that would be the obvious target. But gee whiz, can you trust any breakout here at the moment? It's really tough. Look at these candles, 2, 4, 6, 8 of them, all tiny, tiny candles with long tails, both up and down. It's no wonder it's hard to get into the market here on this cross. Of course, we must realize that this is the result of a bank holiday yesterday in the US. So no wonder that we're in that particular situation. So you've probably got to disregard most of yesterday's trade and maybe have a look at the day before, which really was a bull day, no question. And now we've had a little bit of a turnaround at the close of Friday. That appears now to be continuing. So that's interesting. Where does it go is the question. And as I say, if we can get into a trade, the weekly pivot's going to be the obvious port of call for us, or a take profit point, if not exit point. Big bar so far, certainly in context, a big bar, and the market seems to be making a statement saying that the euro is not wanted at the moment. Righto, we'll follow that one, of course, as we progress through the day. Pound, I'm really disinterested in the pound at the moment, not because well, as I said from the outset today, I'm really keen to get into the pound and get safe in the pound before Friday. But I'm not interested at this level. I certainly don't want to trade long, given that we are overextended. If I go to the daily chart, you can certainly see that. But it is also full of momentum in that direction. We've had a retest of the breakout point, if you like, the second breakout point. Let me just zoom in a little bit further on that. You can see with that bar yesterday that we really did come down, test the weekly pivot and the top of that trend line break as well as the breakout of this consolidation area. We've retested everything there. So this is really a bull move and very strong bullish momentum. But do I want to jump into the market long here, given that we do have this Brexit thing hanging over our heads? And the answer for me is definitely no, I do not. The more information we get around that Brexit scenario, yes, if we do have a deal, then okay, this likely is going to go a lot higher. But we don't know that yet. It's all speculation at this point in time. So until we do know that, really, you're just rolling the dice, you know, and that's really all I think we're doing here, unless we've got a really strong setup from a technical point of view to confirm what our fundamentals are really suggesting to us. And I don't have that at this level. I just can't trade here. So I've got to wait for price to really come back here with a purpose, if you like, and then find something to trade off. You know, maybe that happens tomorrow, the day after, or at the very worst Friday, and we find a confluence area here and we're able to trade long. And that's, of course, what I want to do. But if it doesn't set up, it doesn't set up, and I won't be just jumping into the market for no reason. That's not the way I trade. So it's a little difficult at the moment, but you know, after a strong move like this, we must expect that there's going to be either consolidation or retracement. Yes, we've had one inside a day. We've got a big inside bar there that's retested areas, but still for me, I cannot go long at this point, nor can I go short. So it's just wait and see. Now, I did place an order this morning on Aussie US dollar. It was on a 4-hour chart. I'll show you that particular scenario now. Just let me put these where they belong so they don't disrupt us in any way, shape or form. They are smaller time frames. Okay, so here's what I was looking at this morning when I did my analysis on this cross. A couple of things, and I can make a case for both here, and that's why I'm trading this at relatively small risk. We do have, let's go bigger picture to start with and build the case. We do have a massive bear trend. There's little question about that. I'm sure everyone can see it. On top of that, we've reached a very strong support level and we've gone into consolidation big time at that support level. We're going back, this is a weekly chart, don't forget, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, so 3 months we've been sitting here in this consolidation area. We've attempted to break to the high side, we've attempted 4 times to break to the low side, and all of those have failed. But you can see how strong that level of support is. There's also a trend line supporting that area, as well as a horizontal level. I just can't get wide enough to show you where it starts from. There, it starts from over here. And that's how strong the level is. You can see that it's only strong, however, from a horizontal perspective. You can call it resistance through here, no question. But here's where it was rejected back in 2018, and really nothing since then until we've arrived at that level again. So there's a big gap in here, big yawning gap in here that suggests to me that this is not as strong as perhaps I think it is. And it's more recent support than anything else. Of course, notwithstanding that level over here. So I think this can fail, this level. When, where, how, why, can't help you with that one. Probably have something to do with the US dollar and what it dishes up in the next little bit. But really what I plan on doing here is trading this inside the range until it breaks out and clears out. So what I'm looking for now is trading off the top. We haven't quite reached the top, but very, very close to it. And I'm looking to trade it down to the bottom. And as soon as it gets to the bottom, if it doesn't break out, I'll be looking to trade it back to the top, the range being that rectangle that I have on my chart. I think I'd rather trade long than short, to be fair, given that we are at a stronger support level than we are at a resistance level. So it's better for me to trade from the bottom to the top. And for that reason, I'd probably load up my risk more than I would trading from the top to the bottom. But that said, if it does set up, then why not? And really, it has set up for me. It didn't quite get to the top of the range, but, you know, that's kind of a cloud of a price rather than an exact price to top of that range. So what I'm trading here really is a false break of not only the trend line or trade line that we've got here. Again, a nice trade line, nice frequency of test. We had a break of that, break of the monthly pivot at the same time, and that has failed to materialize into a long trade. So by virtue of that, that then becomes a failed break for me, or a false break, which is what I like to trade. So as soon as I see this come back underneath and then retest the area, that becomes an opportunity to trade short. So I've got an entry underneath that candle with my stop loss just above this one here. Now I'm considering changing that, and really there may be an opportunity even to trade that bar there. Let's go and have a look at that. Yet, sadly for me, price is bang on that level now, and I don't trade at the market anytime. I just don't do it. It's not something I like to do. It's not something I ever do. So I'm just not going to place this order now, but if we were to retrace back into this area, maybe even above the monthly pivot, and give me some price action up there without taking out the high, then I would look to do that. I'd place a trade underneath this candle and put my stop loss well above it. If you want to really cover that, then you can put your stop loss up here if you wished. But at the moment, the entry is underneath this bar and the stop loss is just above this bar. Don't think that's in any danger of being triggered anytime soon. So maybe this alternate trade will be the way to go. So in other words, moving my entry up to here and moving my stop up to here. Why am I bearish? Well, I've given you the case for that. Why am I not bullish? Given that we've got a double bottom, we've come back inside the range and we've put in a higher low. Perfect scenario, but that is probably now over, that sequence. And we've gone to the top, as I said, not quite to the exact top, but we have matched a high here. So I'm more than willing to consider that we're going back to the bottom. And that's the reason I'm bearish, not bullish. Yes, this is another higher low, no question. So a double bottom, higher low, higher low. So there is a case for the bulls, but really I'm still thinking this is resistance area. And if they go there, fine. It's not going to worry me. Of course, if it triggers me beforehand, it will. But if they simply go there now, who cares? We'll then wait for another lower high and look to trade it back to the bottom. So that's my focus currency really for this session, and watching that candle there. Oh, sorry, watching the current candle to see if we can get back above here, and then I can resume my will to trade that bar there. Euro pounds. Anyone who was in the show last week before I got sick will know that I was screaming from the top of my lungs that we had to go short this cross. And in fact, I had to trade it on Monday or Tuesday, I think it was, where I traded the breakout of this little range in here. That was actually the previous week, wasn't it? Goodness me, time flies. That's right, I missed half last week. And we only managed to get a TP1. This is exactly the same scenario that I've just described. We've come off the top of a range. I call this a range. Why do I call it a range? Because price is going from the top to the bottom, to the top to the bottom, to the top to the bottom, blah, blah, blah. So although it is a channel that we're following, to me it's a range because price is bound inside that range. Then, of course, we got the breakout to the high side, another higher high, which almost got to the resistance level of 90.36 or whatever I've got there. And then bang goes your mangoes. It just went bang. Now, I was in bed all through this, so didn't see it happen. And, you know, I've gone back through the charts, through the hourly charts, through the 30-minute charts, trying to work out how I would have got into that move. And for the life of me, I cannot find a way. So although I'm disappointed that I didn't get the move, I'm also realistic enough to understand that I would have been asleep when that happened, and there was no way I could have predicted it happening either. So, you know, as I say, although I'm disappointed that I missed it, given I had an extreme bias for it to occur. In fact, you know, if you want to play the replays, I was just screaming. I haven't seen a setup this compelling for quite some time. It really was shouting at me that this is going to break to the low side of this channel, and it did. But I ain't got nothing to show for it, guys. Unfortunately, SH1T happens, and we move on and look for the next setup that looks pretty similar to that. I've got hi, Star Max Lord Gaming. How are you? Great to have you on board. So I've really got to leave this one alone, like the pound at the moment, because I just can't jump in here, having missed the big move. Yes, full of momentum, again, like the pound. We're also at a support level, and we also don't know what's going to happen next. So again, the only course of action for me is to wait this one out, reluctantly again, because, you know, the target area is very, very clear down here, and there's another, 200 odd pips to be had here, at least, in my humble opinion. But I want to trade this from up here somewhere. I don't want to trade it from here. So I've got to wait. And sadly, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Could I trade it up to there is the question I hear you saying. Oh, it's Chandra. Okay. Cheers, mate. I don't think I can. Well, certainly not at the moment. But what I am seeing here is a break of a trade line, price below the daily pivot, below resistance trade line, and a weekly pivot and an 88-cent target sitting up here. So maybe, just maybe, if we do get something that looks like this, so if price were to come back into this area, take out the daily pivot, and then come back and test the trade line, there is a reason to go long here. Throw this one in as well. Actually, I'll draw that. No, I won't draw it properly because I'll lose my lines. you can see what effect that would have. You can see a false break of the trade line if it were to do that. You can see a break and retest of this trade line if it were to do that. So that gives us multiple opportunities here, multiple reasons to think this is going to the next resistance level, which is there. So if that were to be the case, I'm a fan of trading this long, not to here, not forever, but certainly taking profit at this level and maybe getting out in this vicinity here. So I'm not averse to the idea. It is counter my my bias, of course, but you know, the one thing we must realize is, hang on, I'll just get rid of these drawings, is that things don't go down and don't go up in a straight line. They go like this. So that's exactly what I'll be looking to do. And there's a case to say it's already happened, right? But as yet, this is holding as support. So I won't be doing that. Certainly won't be trading short here. If it goes, it goes. And there'll be tissues beside me to dry my tears. But it's that simple case of you just got to wait. Simple as that. I agree, Chandra. The chart is not clear at all at the moment. What we're seeing is a very, very strong move that's gone into consolidation. And that's exactly what we expect to happen after a big move. So there's no surprise here. And that's why again, going back to what I just said, I would be willing to trade this back to the top of the range. The range is not that obvious in terms of being a rectangle yet, but you can see where the upper limit is and you can see where the lower limit is. And guess what? We've just bounced off the lower limit. So if I get the opportunity, why wouldn't I be traded back to here? Take my profit, make sure I'm safe, leave something open, and close the whole lot at that point. That's what I'd be looking to do. So although it's a messy chart, it's also something that gives me clarity in that here's what I can do. You know, it's possible to actually make money here if you get it right. You don't just say, well, okay, that's obvious to me, let's enter now, because you have to have reason to do so. And that reason may be raised very quickly. If the last candle's any indication, it can just go bang straight away. And if it does, it does. So that's euro pound. And again, looking very, very closely at this cross. I need my pointer back. There it is. Okay. But no trade. Let's have a look back at the Aussie. Has that done anything? Nope, still sitting there. Aussie CAD's in the same boat as Aussie US dollar for mine. In fact, probably even more so, because I think the CAD is one of the strongest currencies at the moment. And it's had fairly good news throughout. I think there are a couple of news events which produced misses. But apart from that, the news on the CAD has been very, very strong. So the only thing that is bad for the CAD at the moment is the oil price. Let me just check on the oil price at the moment. Yeah, it's had a few bad days, or a couple of bad days. Not so much a few bad days, but a couple of bad days since we broke out of that range. This doesn't look too bad to me. Let me take a look. Why am I looking at oil? Oil and the Canadian dollar are very, very closely correlated. So I do like to do that. Let me draw on here. So there's the range that we've been trading in. And this is the problem. We broke out of the range. We've come back into the range. And now we're looking perhaps to go back to the bottom of the range. The one thing that it did interest me was looking at, well, the triple bottom really, and a higher low sitting here. But trading straight into the weekly pivot is a dangerous ploy. So I looked at that this morning and thought, it's interesting, but gee, it's super highly dangerous. And with the momentum here, you're thinking we're probably going to either A, test that level again, or B, break it and go back to the bottom of this range. So it is a little bit iffy to say that oil is going to rally and therefore take the CAD with it. It's still not clear that that's the case. And in fact, if this low goes, you'd be thinking quite the opposite. So there's no real correlation information here that I can use to my advantage. So I'll just accept that the CAD is probably stronger than the Aussie. Probably is not a good word to use, is it? If I'm probablying, I should be saying, well, there's no trading, if that's the case. But the charts themselves are telling me, very, very similar to what I was saying on the Aussie before, that we are in a range. What's not clear, however, is are we coming off the top or are we coming off the bottom? Because neither has reached the top nor the bottom of the range, or the range as I've got it depicted anyway. How good is my range? Well, I'm using two tops here, and I'm using two bottoms here. So that's probably where it needs to be. And the clarity around this just isn't there, because yes, we've had two rejections of the monthly pivot. We've bounced off the top of a trade line here on a smaller time frame, and we've now put in a rejection bar of these low levels as well. So it's very unclear here which ways this is going. But I did think the Aussie was slightly weaker than the CAD, perhaps, but that's not enough to trade. So I was interested in finding a way in here, but until we've really got a top and a bottom clear, and then a higher low or a lower high, I don't want to trade this one. Let's put Euro Aussie together, shall we? Now, I'm bearish the Euro and I'm bearish the Aussie. Is there a way to correlate that into a trade? Well, not really. No. So again, I go back to exactly where I spend most of my time, and that is trying to trade a range. And again, you can see we're bang in the middle of that range being the orange rectangle as usual. We've certainly got, this is early days for this range. We've certainly got now two reasons, two highs here, two lows here. So that's the start of a range for me. But again, we've failed to reach the top and we failed to reach the bottom. So which way are we going? Question mark, question mark. So until we do reach the bottom or we do reach the top, then come off and give me a lower high, or come off the bottom and give me a higher low, I really don't know, and I don't have a reason or a license, if you like, to trade under those circumstances. So I've got to wait till price gets out of here. It's a common theme, guys, isn't it? It's very much the case where I'm a little bit confused in terms of which way to go. I don't have a directional bias on these because they're not giving me one. If the chart's not saying, okay, we're going this way, then how would I know? You know, I'm not a crystal ball, that's for sure. So where's the range on this one, Euro CAD? And I won't waste, all of your time, guys. I haven't got a trade at the moment, but I just did want to show you exactly the parameters I use to trade, and it's very, very similar. In fact, it's the same all the time. So if I haven't got a horizontal range, I may have a channel that I call a range. And when I see bounce off the bottom, I look for a higher low and trade to the top. When I bounce off the top, I look for a lower high and trade to the bottom. So at the moment, you can guess from that I'm waiting for a lower high. Is this to be it? Good question. I don't know. How does the 4-hour chart look? Looks maybe for me. We've got a nice little bearish engulfing bar here, little triple top. We've come off the top of the range. We've had a little bit of a breakthrough here. Couldn't get through the weekly pivot last week. We've come back to the weekly pivot again, and it looks like we want to put in a bear bar. But look what we've got. We've got two pivots holding price either way. What do I need to see here? Well, yeah, it's a good question. I really like to see a reversal bar. I'd really like to see a close below the daily pivot, perhaps. but I don't know that I'm going to like this bar too much, because if it did close below here, it's going to be a fairly big bar. So let's say it closed there, for instance. I would have to put my entry below this bar, I feel. My stop loss is going to be up here somewhere. Yeah, 50 pips, not that bad. Just shy of a 1-to-1 probably to the monthly pivot. So I'm not that keen. I don't see a great reward to be had here in the first instance, but it's not the first instance that I'm really concerns me here, because if I am trading off the top to the bottom, then I'm considering this level is going to go anyway. It's not going to hold. So certainly take profit here and get safe in the market without question, and then look to pick up the dough here in this area as we head towards the bottom. So that's always going to be the same for me. So yes, I am interested. I am interested here. I'll have a look at that on just about 3 time frames, 4 hourly, and 30-minute chart. And if I can find something there that I like, I will look to trade this short again, taking profit just before the monthly pivot, then letting the rest rip, probably taking profit at the horizontal level as well. So that's Euro CAD. Let me have a look at the smaller time frames right now and see what we've got. Got a big bear bar. Maybe that was the bar we needed to trade, huh? That was the first candle of UK session. So again, something I don't trade, but it's a nice little setup, isn't it? Weekly pivot, reversal bar, entry underneath. Bingo. Dunsky. What can we make of this now? Well, we'll put in a trade line, because I trade at trade lines, right? And the break's not as decisive as I would like it to be, just to go bang and trade it, that's for sure. And I hate trading at the market, as I've just said. I just don't do that. What I need to see here probably is this low taken out. So a candle that looks like this. One down and then one back. That would get me interested. Now you could put your entry here, which would be safer, or you could even look to trade it through to there. That's a far riskier trade. So you could enter there below maybe that candle that's forming at the moment and trade it down to there, take some profit off the table there if you wanted to. The safer way, and the way that I trade that, is wait for the break to happen and trade it taking profit before the lows. So that's kind of where I'm at with EuroCAD. I'm keen to trade this. Maybe that was the candle to trade, but I weren't there, guys. Maybe y'all were. Don't know that I've got anything else that I really want to look at, guys. The pound we know about. I don't want to get into the pounds at the moment, the pound pairs, until they settle down, consolidate, or retrace. So that's probably about where I'm at. Looking at a few things, but not looking to enter the market right now. There's that euros come straight back down to the weekly pivot, eh? What would I do, guys? What would I do is the question here. Well, you can see what I'm seeing, surely, and that is a market that is a little bit volatile. We've gone up, we've come down, we're on the way back up again. How far this goes, nobody knows. But I also see the potential here for this to go short off there. But there's no profit available to me. And what I mean by that, once we have a break, I'm always looking for a retest of that break. And as I said before, that's a classic trade line, perfect frequency of test. So you're expecting something off it. I don't know what that is yet, but it's showing me that the market, obviously in UK session at least, is willing to test the lows here. And if we were to get a retest here, it does open up the possibility that we're going A, B, C. Trading that. The reason it's difficult to trade is because we've now got a double rejection of a strong support level, that being the weekly pivot. We've also got what to me is now a box. Early days of the box, without question, but when I start to see that, I start to think, oh, we're going to hang around here for a little bit. That bar is counter to that because it is very, very strong. But really, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the potential for this to just go sideways for a little bit, maybe for a long bit. Euro dollar has the habit of doing that. So I don't know that I want to trade into any support or resistance area at the moment. Look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But and if I am wrong, this looks destined for here, or certainly here today. But yeah, there's a reason this stopped there. There's a reason that candle stopped there, and it is very, very clear to me what that reason is. It's a support level. So I think I'm more than willing to trade like that on the euro dollar for a little bit until we actually do see that breakout either way. And I don't know that there's a good reason for that to happen today. So yeah, more of the same here. I think up and down on the euro. If it does break, as I said, it does, and away it goes. Can I trade what I've just said is the question. And the answer is yes, I can. Now I've got a double bottom, or I've got the bottom of a range, if you like. All I need to see is something like this. So bounce off this again, and then give me a higher low. If I get that higher low, I can then trade this back to the top of the range. Now I'm talking 30-minute chart minimum, because there won't be much room. But if I can get, maybe a 10, 12 pip risk and pick up 18, 20 pips, then that's exactly what I'll be looking to do. And when it gets to the top, I'll be looking for a lower high and trade it back down to the bottom. So that's what that'll be my MO on the euro until it does break clear, either high or low. And what I mean by break is not what we saw earlier. I mean a break, get the hell out of here. These little breaks, these little false breaks are great if you can find a way into trading them as false breaks, but they're very, very dangerous if you try and trade them as breakouts. And for obvious reasons, we've just seen that. If you're trading a breakout here, you're gone. If you're trading a breakout here, you're still okay, but you may be in trouble a little bit later. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at on the euro. Guys, I'll go one more time and have a look at the Aussie, but it seems to have settled down somewhat. And the order that I've got in place that I said before, those of you who weren't in the room, I have placed an order underneath. Now we've got to close on that bar, haven't we? Has everything changed? No. Okay. I've got an order underneath this bar here. And my stop loss is here. But I am looking at this bar. And what I was saying before, guys, if price were to come back into this bar, yet not take out the high, I would have considered trading short underneath that bar with my stop loss above it. But it looks as though price is now on the move a little bit, and we may see this low tested. We may even get into that trade. We shall see. That's the bar that I was considering trading short. In other words, moving my entry from where it is now up to here, and moving my stop from where it was, which is here, up to this level here. I appear to have missed that opportunity, but it's not over yet. There's another hour and 10 or 12 minutes to go before that takes place. So if price were to get back above here, I would still consider doing that, but I might place my order underneath the current bar. but only when it closed. So, guys, I haven't got a lot more. If you want me to have a look at a chart, then I shall, and I'll hang around for a couple of minutes more. But I think that's probably me for the day. As I say, a few opportunities may yet unfold, in particular on the euro, but we'll keep our eye on that. And the others that I was looking to trade off the top and the bottom, they've got to get to the top or the bottom before I can actually do that. And currently, that's not the case. Hello, everybody. Lived Tea. There's a lot of names here I don't recognize today, which is good. Great to have you on board. But a little bit boring. Ash, of course, is in the air, so we've got no FTSE action today. It looks like we don't have a whole lot of, there's been a bit of a move to the downside in early trading. That's a move for Ash. It's not a move for me, but he will be back on Thursday only. He won't be back tomorrow either because I think he's still flying. So we can look forward to his company on Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow. And at the same time, which of course is 5 minutes to 3 Singapore, Hong Kong, and 5 minutes to 8 London, 5 minutes to 6 p.m. here in Australia, which means it's very close to dinner time for me. So I will thank you very much for your company, and we will look to do it all again tomorrow. Take care, and hopefully we can find a way into some moves before that happens. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye for now. Thanks, Andrew. Bye.